All right, we're live.
All right, I'm setting this timer
There you go.
so that way we're not here for
Yapping.
you know.
I'm chilling. My posture's bad right now.
Hey,
This is gonna be a relaxed episode for me.
that's the ace
Uh,
posture, bro.
we seriously on the next episode we need to put the video of Briella.
Oh,
Just saying.
I'll probably throw it in. I'll edit it in here.
Okay,
Right now.
all right.
I'll edit
like
it in,
it.
and you can see.
Brett said something about it too. He's like, "Dude, we got to get chairs that promote good posture." And I'm like, I don't want good posture. I want
There's no upper.
comfortable.
Yeah, there's no upper level back support, which is I think my body naturally just wants to.
Yeah,
So
that's how I'm gonna do it. All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Until Midland Loves Jesus podcast, episode number
this is 8.
8.
I'm
Let's
glad
go. We're
it's-
almost at double digits.
I know we haven't been in the chair in a while together in a long time.
Yeah, there's 3 episodes without.
Three.
Let's go, dude. Hey, thank you for all of you who continue to sit down in this chair and tell your story. We're gonna keep having people on here.
Yeah.
I even pitched it to Demetrius,
Okay.
who is a youth leader at another church, and I told him
Yeah.
like, "Hey, this podcast is about our city, so
Let's go.
we need to." I think next Wednesday, him and I are gonna record.
Okay.
I think so.
That's
And then I
exciting.
talked to a pastor at Community Worship Center,
Yeah.
Pastor Ed Mayberry.
Let's
He
go.
said that he saw that we started a podcast. I was like, "Hey, bro, like, let's get you on." So
Yeah.
we're just trying to get other people on here, man.
Yeah.
But today, we want to talk a little bit that'll hopefully help you build your faith, help you, maybe even just get you thinking.
Right.
We were kind of talking about this next episode that we're going to record, and we weren't sure what it was going to look like. And so hopefully today's conversation will stir your faith, build your faith, because I know so many people in our church, dude, I get calls all the time. And
Right.
I had a phone call yesterday
Yeah.
from one of my best friends, and he's just like, "Hey, you want to have a theological conversation? Go to this gas station over here." This guy had a tattoo of a verse.
Yeah.
I think he had Philippians 4:13 tattooed, and he
Okay.
goes, "Hey, man, I like that verse. What church do you go to?" Which I appreciate the boldness, because that right there is so easy, is how you start a conversation on faith.
That's awesome.
And the guy responded, "You're looking at it," and he just
Yeah.
got into the whole thing about
Mm.
like the church is not a building, it's a people, and
Yeah.
obviously we preach that.
Yeah.
But also we're like, hey, you need to be a part of a local church.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't read the New Testament and not take that away.
Right.
And but I love hearing our people stepping out in faith,
That's awesome.
and having these conversations.
Yeah. Also the boldness, like you said. I mean, I honestly, for as much as I like to talk about Jesus, I think it's easier to do that with other Christians.
Yeah.
But even with people that you don't necessarily know are a Christian, like that's huge. I want to grow in that for sure, in that evangelism.
Do it, bro. Don't be scared.
I know.
Don't
Can't be scared, bro.
All right, what are
Scary.
we talking about today, Ace?
Yeah. So honestly, today I had like so many areas I wanted to go in, but I think your sermon on Sunday was fire. Y'all gotta go check that out.
Rules were meant to be broken.
I'll leave a card that'll pop up, and then I'll put the link in the description as well. But it really opened my mind to like how my faith has been changing as I've been attending real church and getting to know you and getting to know people here and just being discipled. I think one of the things that I've learned was, and what we'll talk about today is like, man, how does my faith last? Like, how do I build a faith that can last and isn't just burn out or like sometimes we can, I don't know, I feel like we can, especially when you first get saved. Like I remember I didn't watch secular movies for like a year.
Yeah.
I didn't listen to secular music for like 5 years.
Yeah.
I had these rules I made in my head. No one said do these things,
Yeah.
but I think I immediately thought this is what I need to do in order to build a faith that lasts. And it honestly left me tired. And so that's kind of the conversation we're going to have today is like, man, how can you build a faith that lasts long,
That's
lasts
huge.
for a lifetime?
That's huge, because especially, I shared in my story that I've been a part of ministry's just been my whole life.
Yeah.
My whole adult life, really.
Mm.
Not my whole life, but my adult life.
Right.
And man, I just see so many people come into the church and they're gung-ho about it. They
Yeah.
get excited about
Yeah.
it. And then they go ghost.
Yeah.
And I used to think, man, what happened?
Mm.
And now I know it's Oh, they had a, even, I don't want to belittle the, maybe they did encounter
Yeah.
God, because I think you have spiritual encounters.
Yeah.
Um, maybe it was just hyper emotionalism.
Right.
Um, I'm not naive to think that people aren't having emotional moments on a Sunday morning.
Yeah.
Um, and then one day they're just gone.
Right.
And so, or maybe like you said, you get tired and you're just like, you know what? I'm tired of following all these
Yeah.
rules. When I like what you said, it wasn't the church that put them on you.
Right.
It was you.
Yeah.
You put them on you. It was
Mhm.
your preconceived ideas of what it meant to follow Jesus.
Yep.
And most people start by making a to-do list and a to-don't list.
Yeah.
And that'll wear you out, man. And it'll
Dude.
eventually cause you to walk away from the church because you're frustrated.
Right.
You're frustrated, and
Yeah.
when you're frustrated, man, you just tend to look to put blame on something.
Yeah.
And you don't realize, oh, it was the rule list that I made that actually caused me to walk away. And so yeah, man, I'm excited to get in that conversation today.
Yeah. Me too. No, I think, I mean, the way you put it beautifully on Sunday was, you know, because the title of the sermon was "Rules Were Meant to Be Broken," and so people hear that and it's like, "Whoa, pastor, are you teaching disobedience?"
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, the point you made was, hey, we follow Jesus, we don't follow rules, and when obedience comes out of a conviction because of my relationship with Jesus, it's much more. One, it's healthier
Yeah.
because you're not trying to earn something from God. Like I think sometimes I made those rules, right? So I was like, if I don't listen to secular music and I don't watch secular movies and whatever, like I had this laundry list of things that I was gonna do. I thought I was impressing God in some
Yeah.
way, and so honestly, sometimes it even made me feel like, man, God owed me.
Yeah.
And because look what I'm doing, I left all this behind for you, Jesus. Like,
Yeah.
and then something wouldn't go my way, and it was like, I guess God's not real.
Yeah.
And that's the trajectory I was headed down. And so whenever you preach on Sunday, like, it put language to what I'd been feeling the Lord teach me lately, which was like, man, we follow. I'm supposed to have this relationship with Jesus,
Yeah.
and being near to Him is gonna solve all those issues. And so,
I agree.
man, honestly, I guess the first question I have is like, what does a lasting faith actually look like? Like, is it just church attendance, or is it something deeper? Like, because if it's just showing up to a church for 10 years, like, would you call that a deep faith? Or, I mean,
Yeah, I think so. I don't want
Right.
to create a
yeah.
what we say a dumb dichotomy.
Okay, that's good.
So yes, faith is showing up over and over
Right.
and over. Because we've had this conversation about the word faith and what
Yeah.
some believe, but it is truth that faith isn't just belief, but it's also rooted in faithfulness. And true faith is faithful. It's like my marriage.
Right.
I want to be faithful, and I got to show up every single day.
Yeah.
She's got to show up every single day, and sometimes that's not easy. Sometimes those days are hard. Sometimes you don't want to. Some days you don't feel like it, but because of faithfulness, because of faith,
Yeah.
you do that. But also, the reason I think kind of helped drive that sermon, especially there was just a key verse in there that said, like, rules are just shadows. They're shadows that we're chasing, and why would we chase a shadow when we can have the true substance found in Jesus? And so I just have so many conversations with people who, heck, I was on the golf course with somebody else the other day in our church, and man, I just want to do more for the church. I want to do more for the church, and I'm careful on how to steward that energy and steward that mindset, because I'm not going to say, hey, chill out, like, sit down. But I'm also not going to be like, great, this is everything we need.
Yeah.
I told him, I want to be doing this for longer than, I want this to exist longer than I do.
Yeah.
And I want you to be a part of that long after you're gone as well. And if we're not careful, we'll create this system where it's, I have to do more. I have to do more. I have to do more.
Yeah.
And it's not about doing more for, like, I carefully worded it, but in the end, I just wanted to be like, hey, just show up ready to love people,
Yeah.
ready to serve your church, whatever that looks like,
Mm.
ready to serve the Lord and whatever He's telling you to do. Because if it's just this, I got to go fast, I got to go hard, I got to go right now,
Yeah.
you're going to burn out because you're going to create these rules like, oh crap, like I missed church.
Mm.
What are they going to think about me next week?
Right.
Can I show up next week and them
Mm.
not judge me? And it's like, yo, you created that rule in
Yeah.
your head. And now you're going to put me in a position as a leader where I can't win with you because you're already thinking I'm judging you. You're already thinking whatever.
Right.
And it's like, are you following rules or are you following Jesus?
That's good.
And so, man, I just want people to understand the difference, because one will only bring condemnation.
Mm.
One will only bring weariness.
Mm.
And Jesus says, hey, if you're come follow me, my yoke is easy, my
Yeah.
burden is light.
Mm.
Because rules are not light. Rules are
Yeah.
not easy.
Mm.
And your relationship with Jesus, if it's going to last a long time, you have to understand that, okay, it's not about rule keeping.
Mm.
It's not about, because you'll do what you kind of said. Some think, well, I don't ever feel like I did. You might actually be thinking you're impressing God.
Yeah.
And that's even scarier, just as much as thinking you're disappointing God.
Yeah.
They're both bad.
Right.
It's I'm following Jesus.
Yeah.
I'm following Jesus.
Yeah. And I think even it's beautiful how, one, I appreciate how you said that, because I think it brings clarity. Because sometimes we can say, well, yeah, follow Jesus, and people are like, okay, what does that mean? And you said you want to avoid this dumb dichotomy of like, okay, well, just he said don't follow rules, so now I don't have any rules at all. You know?
Definitely not saying that.
Right.
And I know people from my tone and from the heart of the message, if you really listen to it, you don't take that away.
Right. Yeah.
You're not walking away with like, oh, cool, so I can
I can do whatever.
do whatever I want.
Right. And I think even it's like when Jesus says, hey, in the Gospels, he says that all of the law can be summed up into, man, are you loving God and are you loving his people?
That's right.
And so there's still, and even when Jesus says, you know, my yoke is easy, my burden is light, that still implies there's a yoke there.
Yes.
And there's a burden. It's just
Yeah.
lighter than the one you carry on your own.
Yeah.
Because if we're honest too, the people that are the hardest on us are usually ourselves.
Correct.
And so those rules we put, like, I think you even give an example of like, you were like, yeah, I wanted to read my Bible every day this year, and you missed a few days, and that you kind of had to in the moment be like, I can't allow this to beat me down.
Correct.
Because I think we can all do that with whatever rule we set up.
And again, vice versa. I can't allow myself to think, oh, I've read my Bible for a week straight. Like, God must really love me.
Yeah.
Like, he must be shining down on me. And it's like, nah. No, it's all about his grace.
Yeah.
Because grace, and this is where I know people like myself who preach grace, people think, oh, you're just giving a license to people. Grace isn't just something that he gives us to cover our sin.
Right.
Grace is something that empowers us.
Yeah.
So his grace is actually empowering me to walk with him,
Right.
live for him, and want to honor him, right? Because that was the whole message. Is like, man, are you walking with Jesus?
Yeah.
His grace empowers me to do that.
Right. That's good. And I think it's all about starting points, I guess. When we start with trying to impress God or not to disappoint him. And it's less, I guess what I'm trying to say is, if we start with grace, it's better than starting with the rules and things like that. Because if we start with rules, regulations, and we're going to be burned out. And our faith will fizzle out, and then we're like, I'm done. I can't do this. Being a Christian's hard. I've heard that too. Like, and while in a sense, like, it's true that this isn't easy, it's not like impossible. If that makes sense. Especially with Jesus. Like, if you've truly met him, if he's your Lord and Savior, he himself says, man, what's impossible for man is possible with God. And so, like, it was meant to be a light burden that Jesus gives you and a easy yoke.
Yeah.
And so
I took this from last week. We got to go to listen to Ryan Leak.
yeah.
And I was listening to one of his podcasts this past week, and he talked about Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum, if you're not a basketball fan, his team, the Boston Celtics, he was the MVP of the finals. They won the championship, and so really the world was saying like, okay, he's the best basketball player. And this season, an interviewer was talking to his coach, and it says, hey, Jason Tatum has to deal with all this criticism and all this that comes with it. And the coach stopped and he said, no, he gets to. He gets to.
Yeah.
And when I think about being a Christian, this is where the shift has to happen in your mind. It's got to change from it sounds corny because we hear it's not that we have to do. It's that we get to.
Yeah.
We get to live this way.
Yeah.
We get to follow him and we get to talk like this and we get to have this. And too many people think, oh, now that I'm a Christian,
I have to.
I have to.
Wow.
And that's a key. Like if you're living your life that way, you're following rules.
Yeah.
You're not following Jesus. So if you want to know on a most practical level of what it looks like, what it sounds like, look at your mentality of living the Christian life. Oh, I get to honor the Lord this way, right? I get to go to church on Sundays. I get to serve my church. I get to serve the people in my community.
Right.
I get to give. I get, and man, when you start living that way, there's joy.
Yeah.
People want to know why they don't have joy in going to church and serving at church, giving at church. It's probably because you're following rules and you have I have to do that. Like, no, you don't have to. But man, I'm telling you, when you start to serve and you start to want to be at church and you want to read your Bible, you want to pray, you want to give,
Right.
bro, I'm talking about a whole nother life.
Yeah. When I think too, I think when we say, oh, I have to, we're even misunderstanding. I think that more often than not is tied to our worth, because I used to be there. And I would say, well, I have to read my Bible or I have to pray and I was like trying to earn God's love.
Yeah.
And then when my perspective changed to I was starting from a place of love and acceptance because of what Jesus did already.
Yeah.
And then it's just this beautiful journey of like, man, I get to know the God of the universe and actually know who he is, what he's like, what he dislikes. It's like starting this journey with the Lord. And I mean, you just get to know Jesus. Like it's beautiful, and it's much more exciting that way than
That's right.
I have to read my Bible today, or man, I have to go to church on Sunday. Like it's like no,
I get to
do this.
Well, and I think you said something like you said for you, it was in other words, it was selfishness. Like when you live from I have to, that's selfish.
Yeah.
Oh, I have to.
That's good.
And even though I get to, there's a selflessness, there's a selfless heart posture when it comes to that. Like, no, I get to serve other people because you're saying, I want to help people. I want to make sure they have a good experience when they come to church. I get to do this. And that just creates a selfless heart posture. And when you have a group of people who have that kind of heart posture, you get to see what we're seeing right now in our church. Yeah. And it's beautiful. Like you said, it's beautiful.
Yeah. And honestly, I want to ask a question based off what you just said there. I think sometimes people hear that, or they'll hear people say, man, your faith is not about you. Your life is not about you, right? We are very much like that here at Road Church. We're about others. I think one of the cries of the culture today is worry about you.
Yeah.
No one's got you like you do.
Yeah.
Like, no. Like, don't let people push you around. Advocate for yourself. Like, it's just this selfish.
Forget everybody else.
Forget everyone else. Worry about you first. Because if you don't worry about you first, then you can't take care of others. And I get like where that's coming from,
Yeah,
but it's almost like this half truth of
that's
like,
right.
because it's still about you at the end of the
That's
day.
right.
And so how would you answer that question? Like, well, pastor, I'm not just going to be a doormat. Like,
Yeah, man, this conversation actually has been popping up a lot in conversations that I'm having.
mm,
Like Christians don't have to be doormats.
okay,
You don't have to just lay down,
right,
because also the call to Christianity isn't one of wimpiness. I don't know,
right,
for lack of words.
right,
We're called to be bold and courageous
mm,
and things like that. But man, when I think about faith, when I think about the Christian life, and I think about people um, who wrestle with this, obviously there has to be a healthy view, and because what you said, um, I'm going mind blank. What you said that. What did you say about the people? Dang it, I'm going mind blank,
no,
bro.
you're good. What I just said,
Yeah,
how people, yeah, we're in this culture of worry about you first and
there
then
you go.
others.
There
Yeah.
you go. People. I'm just gonna say it, bro. We're so selfish.
Yeah.
We're so freaking
Yeah.
selfish. And so when the Bible talks about being selfless, it's because God the Creator knows who He designed
Right.
and what sin did to that design.
Right.
It broke it. We were designed to be selfless,
Mm.
and because of sin, it fractured that.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're just selfish all the time.
Right.
All we care about is ourselves.
Mm.
And so this world is teaching, like, hey, forget everybody else.
Mm.
And I'll be honest, when I like hit the gym, the times I do hit the gym,
Mm-hmm.
again, I've said this before. I'm not a crazy music person, but maybe I like to listen to some, whether it's a podcast, a sermon, or whatever, even motivational stuff. You have to be careful because the messages, especially in the self motivation world, it's
Mm.
just that, it's self motivation,
Yeah.
and it's this half truth of forget about everybody else, and all that is arrogance. It's
Mm.
pride. It's I don't need you. I don't care about you.
Mm.
And that's not our faith. Our
Mm.
faith is very much, I do care about you.
Yeah.
I do love you. I can't do this by myself.
Mm.
And so creating that culture here at our church, it goes against the grain of the world of
Yeah.
like, no. That's why that's one of our core values is we always go together.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you think you can do this by yourself, then good luck.
Yeah. No.
Good luck,
Yeah.
man. I know I can't.
Right.
I say it all the time. It's the team.
Yeah.
The team. And so I don't know if that answered your question.
No,
but
that's good, and I think it speaks to the, how do I say this, least attractive part of our faith. If
okay.
anything, the one that I think, because it attacks our selfishness, and not attack, but maybe it addresses.
Oh, it does. It attacks
definitely
it.
attacks, and it feels uncomfortable, because I notice when the times when I'm being selfish, if whether that's I'm complaining about how life is going, or I am complaining about the situations that I'm in, whatever it might be, right? I'm just upset. I'm like, I had this moment of conviction the other day where I was like, it's because I'm so worried about what I want
Yeah.
and my comfort.
Yes.
And I was like, and it wasn't this like, okay, I'm going to try hard to love other people. It was like, God has given me everything I need. God loves me. God accepts me. God approves of me. I can start there. And then I just stopped thinking about myself. And I was like, what does my mom need? What can I do for my church? How is that person in church that I talked to the other day? Let me text them. And
Yeah.
so I start worrying about others and
Yeah.
loving others.
Yeah.
And God will love me. And then
That's right.
when we have that community, people reach out to me and love on me.
Bro.
And I don't have to love myself.
I heard something the other day that I'd never heard before. You know, you hear the quote, because you talked about complaining and we start thinking about ourselves.
Yeah.
And people say this quote, and it's been around forever. Life is not fair.
Yeah.
And the person said, one of my mentors told me, actually, life is fair because it's not fair for anyone.
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, that's
That's
so
true.
true. I've never heard that before.
Right.
Like, life is fair because it's not fair to anyone.
Right.
And if you live from that mentality, it'll just drive you to live for yourself. And if you're able to take that thought captive the way you did, you start thinking about others. Like, this is where your faith kicks in. This is where faith plays out because, just to keep it real, and maybe I dig into this in your brain a little bit, in your heart, because you're living that right now. Like, man, your mom is struggling right now. She's currently in a hospital bed, and anybody who their mom is going through what she's going might deserve to complain a little bit, you know. And on two of the biggest weekends, with Easter Sunday, then Baptism Sunday to follow, a lot of responsibilities were on you, getting baptisms ready, making sure, names are correct on the screen and making sure everything's ready to go. A lot of media stuff that you deal with. Like, your faith drove you to not think about yourself when most in the world would say you had every right to be selfish.
Yeah.
And like, how do you, in that moment, how did you like allow your faith to overcome that?
Yeah. I think one, I don't just hold it in either. Like, I think sometimes that can be picked up on by what we're saying. Like, if something unfair happens, we'll just whatever, let it happen to you and hold it in and just and that grows resentment. I all the time just go to the Lord in prayer, and it's by his grace, because he just reminds me, like, you have to give it to me. Like, I can't, and so if I'm angry, I go to God about it. If I'm upset, I go to God about it. If I'm like, God, this is unfair, I go to God about it. And then I try to remember, especially with the whole life's not fair part. One, I think I don't know how to say this. It could be worse, right?
Yeah.
Life could be worse. And so I try to
That's one way to look at it.
I try to have gratitude and be like, man, my mom is still here by the grace of God. My family's gone through so much, like a lot. Like, there's stuff that I just didn't touch on in my story. And I'm just like, God, your hand has been on my family for as long as I've been alive, And so, and then the only person in the world who should have been treated fairly, Jesus, was not. And I think about it, I'm like, he was treated unfairly so that God could treat me the way he should have been. And I start from that place of being like, man, I'm a son. I know that, like the Apostle Paul, who who wrote, like, that the suffering that we're going through now can't compare to the glory that's going to come. Paul wrote that after being shipwrecked, beaten. Like, this dude wasn't just someone who was like in a mega church, cushy life. This dude was going through it. And for the sake of believers, he's like, if it was for me, I'd be in heaven, right? And I remember, like, I just try to, with the word of God, encourage my mind. And it's not always easy. Sometimes I'll reach out to you or Pastor Braden, and I'm just like, man, life's rough right now.
Yeah.
But I just remember, I really just try to abide with Jesus, I guess, and lean into his love for me, because when I don't, I become selfish. And when I'm already loved and accepted by God, I don't have to be selfish anymore. And if anything, it makes me more loving to others around me, because I notice. I can tell when I'm burning out, I guess, because I start to be mean and ugly and
short with people, irritated with people.
Yeah. I'm just like, I don't care, dude. Like, and I don't want to be. I shouldn't be that way as a believer.
Especially us who are in ministry.
Right.
Like, everything that we do is people focused.
Right. We live. I think I've noticed too. Like, for the rest of my life, and this is just something that comes with the call of ministry. You live in like a fishbowl, like you and your family. Kind of everyone gets to the view of, right, and it's like everyone's watching for every little movement, and that's one of the costs. But I think the joy of it is, man, I think it's worth it, because you get to see God work in people's lives, and that's so fulfilling.
Yeah.
Like, even over this past weekend we had Easter, and then we had a worship night. I got to share at men's breakfast. I get to lead worship on Sundays and on Wednesdays, like tonight, with the youth. And it's just so beautiful to see God move in their lives and begin to, I don't know, work in their lives. It gets me hyped. Like, and I know that it's worth it. But yeah, I think, yeah, that's just how I try to handle that, I guess. And all the time, I think people ask us these questions, and we always end it with, it really is just the grace of God, though.
Yeah.
Like I'm not no superhuman. Like I know you've said that before. Like you're
Yeah.
not a superhuman. Like
Yeah.
it's the grace of God. Like
That's it.
and he just keeps showing up,
Yeah.
and it's beautiful. But
I like it.
I don't know. As there, how would you? What are some warning signs you would look for, if you were gonna, I guess, for people to look out for when they're being burned out? I guess when their faith is burning out, right? Like, have you ever been at a season where your faith was dwindling
Oh,
or
yeah.
in a burnout?
Heck yeah. Um, I think some signals is again how frustrated. I think that was a good one. Are you frustrated with people?
Mm.
Are you frustrated with things that you once saw as a gift and a great opportunity?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that's a good signal. If that's happening in your life, that you're following rules
Mm.
and you're not following Jesus. Um, because even in those moments, like you said, you just got to have this moment where it's like, all right, like I'm honoring the Lord in this. I'm serving God and I'm worshiping God. It'll set in like, okay, this is why.
Yeah.
And really that's what it is. Our why gets
Mm.
starts getting blurry. And
Mm.
if your why is, oh, I just want to do everything right, then
Yeah.
you're gonna get worn out. And if your why is, I just want to follow Jesus, then things don't seem so heavy.
Yeah.
Things don't seem so big, and things don't seem so burdensome because you know what? The Lord is with me.
Yeah.
So why should I even think that way?
Yeah. No, that's
And
good.
so I think that's one way. I think if you're always beating yourself up, that's a
Mm.
big one, man.
That's good.
Like people, I heard a pastor say this one time. He goes, "You're doing better than you think you are."
Mm.
How many
That
people? How many people need to hear that?
I think even then that triggers people's fight or flight right there,
Yeah.
because they're already beating themselves up, and any sort of idea of that is foreign.
Yes. And so, man, even if you're watching this or listening to this, you're doing better than you think you are.
Mm.
Dads, you're doing better than you think you are.
Mm.
Moms, you're doing better than you think you are. That's so huge because, again, we live in a performance world.
Yeah.
And to others, they may think like, oh, you're crushing it. But like you said, we're our worst own enemies. And we think, man, I'm not doing enough.
Mm.
I'm not going fast enough. I'm not. I know I do that. I'm 33, and sometimes I think I'm not far enough in life that I thought I would be or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And that's just the enemy convincing me and lying to me.
Right.
And again, I'm giving into my performance, which is
Yeah.
rule based,
Yeah.
and I just can't live from that.
Mm.
And so I think that's probably the biggest red flag. Like,
Yeah.
are you beating yourself up?
Right.
Are you constantly beating yourself up?
Mm.
Because if you are, that's not from the Lord.
Yeah.
You know, not saying that the Lord doesn't address things in our life,
Mm-hmm.
but when He does them gently, and He does
Yeah.
it kindly and patiently and graciously. Like, and if it's harsh and brash and
Mm.
like that's not His tone.
Yeah. I think even you can speak to this as a parent, right? Like
Yeah,
if one of your kids is doing something that you're displeased with, because I think sometimes we do things that God is displeased with,
yeah,
but it's not because you don't love them. It's because you're like, you want what is best for them.
correct.
And whenever that correction comes and that conviction comes, it's a gift because it's an invitation to come home.
Correct.
And it's like, yeah, it's never. Anytime I've heard the voice of condemnation and conviction, and condemnation always agrees with me, like, and I always agree with it because I'm so hard on myself.
Yeah,
And conviction, honestly, it goes against what I'm thinking, but it's like, hey, you're my son.
yeah,
Like, this isn't who you are.
Yeah.
Um,
I
or
still
I've
love
just
you.
heard I love you.
I still love you.
I had this moment the other day, or maybe a few months ago, where I blew it big time. I text you. I text, right? I just, and it wasn't nothing crazy. It's just some personal struggles. And I remember just, it was like this still small voice, because I was just like, you know what? I'm still gonna spend the time with the Lord today. And I just remember hearing like, I love you.
Mm-hmm.
And I was reading, I was reading Romans 5:8, and it was like, while I was still a sinner, Christ died for me. God shows His love for us in this, that while I was still a sinner, Christ died for
Well,
me.
you were still.
Yeah, still, and that means that word sinner too. Like it means probably the worst of your worst,
Yeah.
because God exists outside of time. So, but I just remember, and that was convicting enough for me to repent.
Yeah.
It wasn't, Are you kidding me? You're dumb. How did you do that again?
Yeah.
It was, hey, I love you.
Yeah.
It was almost like, hey, I'm waiting for you.
Yeah.
And so, man, that's I think that's so true, and that's a good warning sign, I guess, to look out for.
Yeah. Because everybody does it.
Yeah.
Everybody beats themselves up, and man, I hope this just encourages somebody to stop beating yourself up. Like, because again, God doesn't love you anymore, or love you any less because of what you're doing or not doing.
Yeah.
That's rule based. That's
Yeah.
shadows, man. That's that'll leave you exhausted. It's like somebody trying to earn. You ever tried to get somebody to like you, and you're like, all you can think about is like, oh, I hope they like me. I hope I'm funny enough. I hope I'm
There right
smart
now.
enough. I hope I. What'd you say?
So I'm there right now. No, I'm just kidding.
And eventually, you'll get to a place where you're like, yo, I don't even care if this person likes me,
Yeah.
because you found yourself exhausted, of trying to please them.
Wow.
And that's not what the Lord wants for us. The Lord, He's saying, hey, I'm pleased with you. We see that with Jesus. I love this takeaway from when He said, this is my son in whom I'm well pleased.
Right.
When He got baptized and the Spirit ascended or descended upon Him. And He said those words. It was before Jesus did anything.
Yeah.
It was before any of His ministry, anything, any miracle. Like, He said, this is my son who I'm well pleased.
Wow.
And so you'd have to ask yourself, like, why is He pleased if He hasn't done anything? Because that's the Father that we.
Yeah.
And for us, it's that Jesus already did it.
Wow.
He did it. And so
That's good.
when you live your life from there, now you're following Jesus. So now being kind to people is not such a burden.
Right.
Loving people is not such a burden. All these things that come with following Jesus, even things that He's calling us to walk out, obedience doesn't seem like this big burden.
Right.
And it's actually a joy. Like, oh
Right.
man, I get to do this.
Right.
And so I think if more Christians lived from this, we wouldn't have so many people confused thinking that God loves them because of what they do and don't do. And that's just not the case.
Right.
And so I'm thankful. And here's the thing. The only reason we're talking about this is because it was written in the Bible. That means the early church struggled with this.
100%.
And so it's not just the church of today or the church of America that's in trouble. Like, no, this church thousands of years ago, 60 years post-resurrection, dealt with this.
Right.
They tried to follow rules thinking, oh, man, this is what's going to get God to love me.
Yeah.
And Paul's saying, hey,
Wow.
those are empty philosophies. It's not truth. It's
Right.
half truth. It's almost right.
Right.
And so I'm thankful that we can just go, like we can breathe and say, okay, like we're human. And sometimes we will lean into following rules. And it's just a gentle reminder from Paul, like in the scriptures saying, hey, that's shadows.
Yeah.
That's shadows. Don't chase shadows.
Wow.
And so
That's good.
I just want people to follow Jesus, man. It's so much more freeing.
Yeah.
There's so much more freedom from that.
Yeah.
I think there's people who claim to follow Jesus and they're more depressed. They're more bound. They're more mean. Why? Because they're wrapped up in rules.
Yeah.
Because when you follow Jesus, you're not going to when you're truly following Jesus, that can't be your response.
Right.
A true response following Jesus is freedom, joy,
Yeah.
love, all the fruits of the Spirit. I can just keep a lot of what I talk about leans back into the fruits of the Spirit because
Yeah.
that's how we know He's at work in us.
Right.
But yeah, you're doing better than what you think you are.
I think even when you are mean, I just had this thought.
Me? I mean,
No, but just if you're
I can be mean.
if you're living in rules, right, and you're mean or frustrated with people, honestly, sometimes it's, and I know this because I've been here. I'm frustrated because I'm not measuring up to my rules.
Okay.
Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so I think I've been there too. And it's like you said, there's not this, we avoid dumb dichotomies. And so it's not always that you're too hard on yourself. It's sometimes you are actually following the rules. And so you think you're better than others. Or,
And
deep
Sunday
down
I
you don't measure up.
referenced the rich young ruler.
Yeah.
That's what he did.
Mm.
What do I got to do? Is what he said.
Yeah.
And what did Jesus is like, he played the game with him.
Yeah.
So he said, here's a list of things that you got to do. Here's some rules. And the guy said, yeah, I did him.
Yeah.
I covered him. And I know a lot of Christians that are like that.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I said it. If you're living by rules, if you want to know if you're living by, ask yourself, how much do you compare yourself to other people?
That's good.
Because if you're comparing yourself, it means you're following rules and not Jesus.
Yeah.
When you follow Jesus, there's no room to compare. You can't compare.
Right.
Because you and I are equal.
Right.
We're the same.
Yeah.
And so, but when you follow rules, then you start comparing like, oh, Ace does that, but I don't do that. And that's dangerous because all that does is puff someone up.
Yeah.
Because you start to think you're better than someone. And I said it Sunday. Jesus doesn't puff you up. The Spirit fills you up.
Yeah. That's good. No, I think that's so good. And honestly, so helpful. It's helping me right now.
It reminds me, man. It reminds me.
Yeah.
Because we're human.
Yeah.
And not only that, we're men. And for men, we want to be better.
Yeah.
We want to, and it's just like, not that women don't, but
no, I get what you're saying.
more on the competitive side, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
And so, yeah, man, follow Jesus so
Follow
much more
Jesus.
free. Maybe that's another podcast, but yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just, again, I keep telling people this. I'm just reading from the Bible, man.
Right.
I'm just echoing what Paul's saying in our language today.
Yeah. Go check out Colossians. It's fire.
Yeah, Colossians, man. I'm excited for this week. Pastor Braden's going to be starting chapter 3. In chapter 3, we're going to start getting more practical.
Yeah.
Because there are some practicals in our faith, man. There is. But again, it's not the I have to. It's I get to.
Yeah.
Because that's what Paul did this entire time. He sets up this, hey, this is who God is. You need to get your eyes on him. You need to know that he's the focus of our faith. And from that, here's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I'm excited what Pastor Braden's going to bring.
And it's cool, too, because most of the practicals in our faith are just redirections back to Jesus anyway.
Yeah.
And what he's already done.
Yeah.
It's not like, do this amount of this, and you got it. I think you even said this one time a few months back. Man, we avoid the practical in the Christian life because we think it's not spiritual, but usually the practical leads to the spiritual. And because God does the spiritual aspect of it, we don't do any of that anyway.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I think that's cool. I'm excited too. He was telling me a little bit about it, and I'm like, okay, because I was like, "What are you gonna preach?" He's like, "Dude, we're in a series.
Yeah.
We're walking through a book." I was like, "Oh yeah, I forgot."
Yeah. I know he's excited.
Yeah.
He always does a good job when I'm gone. So.
Oh, dude.
Colossians chapter 3 coming up.
Let's go. As we wrap up here, I know we've been going for a little bit. What's something you would tell a younger Christian, so like someone who's still new to the faith, right? They just want to stay faithful for the long haul. And they try to do that with a lot of short-term rules, I guess. They put rules a lot really, really quickly. Like if you could go back and give yourself tips about spiritual endurance when you were 20,
Mm-hmm.
right? What would you say?
Listen to the Lord,
Mm.
because what I don't want to do
Mm-hmm.
is misguide people. And so when I'm saying don't follow, like, the Lord is going to whisper some things to you.
Yeah.
The Spirit of God is going to show, He's going to shine light on some things in your life
Right.
that He doesn't want there,
Mm.
because he knows that's not good for you. He knows it's
Yeah.
not best for you. But when He does that, don't let it lead to, because even in the midst of that, the enemy will come and try to twist it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But for instance, like, some might struggle with alcohol, some might struggle with addiction or whatever. And when the Spirit just kind of tells you, like, hey, you need to lay that down.
Mm.
Don't be convinced, like, oh, I'm creating rules in my own head. Like, no. Like, listen to that.
Yeah.
Because again, that's gonna show that your faith is at work and that
Right.
He's at work in your life. And so I would just say, listen to the Lord, discern the voices,
Mm-hmm.
discern your voice from His voice.
How do you do that?
Man, you got to be in your word.
Yeah. Okay.
You got to know, you have to know His tone.
Oh.
You got to know the Lord, how He talks.
Right.
So many people are like, how do I know if it's Him, or how do I know if it's my own thoughts?
Yeah.
Man, you got to know His tone,
Mm.
because I guarantee our tones aren't the same.
Mm-mm.
Our words are not the same. And so you being able to discern that, it's going to help you, because I think there's a danger of overcorrecting and thinking it's not about, I can't create all these rules. And it's like,
Right.
oh, no, that's not a rule you're creating. That's actually the Spirit of God
Yeah.
guiding and leading you.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I've heard it said like it's almost like a covert operation. It starts with, man, you just come to Jesus first, and then He starts to transform your heart, because there's still transformation that's gonna happen.
Correct.
But it's just not something because there is things we think of like, no Harry Potter, right?
Yeah.
No Harry Potter, or I don't know, like
Music.
no, yeah, I don't care. No country music, that's demonic, right? And it's just like maybe sometimes the Lord might, if you're like, if that's all you're giving your attention to and it becomes an idol,
Yeah.
I think the Lord will say those things.
Yeah.
But it's
And that's
the
what
Lord.
happened in the rich young ruler.
Yeah.
God's not calling every Christian to sell all their belongings to
Right.
follow Him. That was his idol.
It was dealing with his greed.
It was dealing with his greed, his life. And so that's literally what you're saying. That it might be something specific in your life that the
Right.
Lord says, like, hey, I need you to stop.
Right.
I need you to stop.
Yeah. And it's simple as maybe it's like, hey, that's not the best friend for you to have.
Yeah.
Especially if they lead you down paths you
Yeah.
don't want to go. And the Lord will, like you said, once you in your word, I think the Lord will tell you. And it's obvious.
Yeah.
It's not like,
That's the thing. We typically already know sometimes.
Yeah.
The Spirit's just confirming it. Like,
Yeah.
hey,
This is true.
Not that.
Yeah. If it takes,
Not them.
you don't got to call up your pastor and 3 best friends to be like, is this
Yeah.
the Lord? Usually it's like
Yeah.
already a confirmation of like, and you can do those things. You can seek guidance and wisdom, but I think I've heard it said too, like people, I think you said it, you were like, you're asking God, man, what do I do about this? And He already told you what to do. You just don't do it.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, I know. And so, listen to the Lord, I think is such a great one, because
And simple. Again,
it's simple.
I think the more I do this, man, I'm telling people, there's no magic potion. There's no secrets like formula to this stuff. Like that's not how the Lord are there principles in Scripture? Absolutely. But the main thing is Jesus. I will never get over that.
Mm-hmm.
The main thing is Jesus.
Yeah.
And His word is true. Seek first His kingdom and His righteousness.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're following rules, you're seeking your own righteousness. If you're following Jesus, that means you're going to seek Him.
Yeah.
And when you're seeking Him, you seek His righteousness. And
Yeah.
so just follow Jesus, man.
Follow Jesus. I think I want to add one thing is something I struggle with is like, I want it right now.
Yeah.
I want spiritual transformation right now.
Yeah.
Lord, take away all my sin right now, you know? And
I was gonna say that's a Gen Z thing, but that's
that
actually a cultural thing.
that might just be our culture. And I think
Right now, people.
right now, more often than not, no, all the time, for the Christian life is one of becoming more like Jesus day by day
Yeah,
for the rest of your life.
that's right.
I think Matt Chandler said it, like, God wants to do a deep work in your life over a long period of time. And it's one of becoming more like Jesus, so it's not going to happen overnight. And it won't happen when we are fully like Jesus, it will be when we are living in eternity with him already, like in the next life.
Yeah.
And so I think just learning to listen to the Lord, but I think just asking the Lord for patience
Yeah.
and for you to just go at his pace, because honestly, more often than not, we're in a hurry and he isn't.
That's right.
Because like I said, I'm like, God, well, why can't I just be the nicest person in the world already, God? Like, and I get mad at myself. I'm like, I'm tired of being angry at everything, and it's like, well, the Lord is working in my heart. And even that idea of you're doing better than you think you are, I think can allow you to
breathe,
take a deep breath,
relax,
and it doesn't have to happen. It doesn't have to happen overnight. Like,
I think that's for most people. If you're showing up to church consistently, you're praying consistently, like, you need to hear you're doing better than what you think you are. Because if the Lord wasn't at work in you, you probably wouldn't be doing those things.
Right.
You wouldn't care for them.
Yeah. I think
so. If you're even thinking about those things,
you told me that one day. I think where I was like, dude, I was so mad at myself because I was just falling into this area of sin over and over again. And you're like, the fact that you even care, Ace, I think shows like that God's working in your heart. Because
like, a lot of people don't care.
Right. And you were like, the fact that you just even care. Like, and so I think it just blew my mind to hear, you know, you're doing better than you think you are. And I don't know. I know that this is going to help people because it helped me today.
And I think that might be the title of this episode. You're doing better than you think you are. Just keep following Jesus.
Yeah. Cool.
I like it.
All right. Well, that was episode 8 of the Until Midland Loves Jesus podcast. Man, share this with a friend. You know, you can share it on Facebook. You can hit copy link or go follow our Instagram. It's Until Midland Loves Jesus. Subscribe.
Road to 100.
Road to 100. We're what?
Instagram or YouTube? Both.
Oh, well, on both.
Let's
on
see which
YouTube,
one gets
we're
there
like,
faster.
I think on YouTube we're really close. So if you see this and you're not subscribed, you know, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You can hit the notification bell, and every time we post, you can get a notification. Because I've had people reach out and be like, "When's the next episode?" I'm like, "Dude, it'll tell you actually."
Turn the bell on.
Yeah. So, and let us know what you think down in the comments. Unless you disagree with us, don't tell us what. No, I'm just kidding.
If you have questions,
let us know if you have questions. We do wanna. I want to do a like. Ask your pastor any question kind of thing. So leave us a question.
Somebody asked me about the Pope in the middle of the mall the other day.
Dude, I got a funny one. I'll show you later. I got some questions. But yeah, man, we love you guys, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.
Peace.